All right, Meischa. So, thank you for joining in. What I want to know first from you is how did a girl who had done her BBA
Uh-huh.
end up choosing MA in psychology?
Okay. Uh, so it it wasn't the first decision wasn't psychology for me ever. Actually, I was very unclear of what I wanted. And after finishing my BBA, I think I worked for a year in my brother's business. It was a truck business. So I had to basically we had the dealership for South Goa of Aisha truck vehicles, commercial vehicles, and for me it was all about understanding chassis numbers and what kind of cabins and which route is going to reach where and where the workshops will be and talk to truck drivers and all that. But it was an amazing experience for a year, but then it wasn't my thing. And understanding business and doing business, having sales pitches and all those things, it is good. It was an amazing experience, but it was just not me, so I stopped immediately after a year. And I took 2 months of a break to understand what I wanted to do. And it suddenly dawned on to me with the help of a few friends, well wishers of mine, who told me to check into what psychology would do for me. And then I just randomly wrote an entrance, studied for 3 months, wrote an entrance, and just got through. And I was myself surprised that I never thought that fixing someone's mood in general would turn out to be a professional commitment for me. So, but it did happen. So yeah, I'm very, I would, it took, it took a while to decide on psychology, but it happened well.
So, how was it studying for the entrance exam at that time?
Difficult. I did not. I really am very bad at history. And the
Mm,
first thing that I still remember the books in the Balo's book,
mm,
that fat book. So everybody had told me you have to just learn this entire book, and everything was
mm,
about from how psychology started to all the people related to it and all the experiments done and all the dates and DC, BC, and I don't know what not. And it was just very confusing. And I always failed at history all my
uh,
life.
mm,
So, but as I told you, I mean, this was something that happened in the span of 2 to 3 months. And
mm,
it happened only because I suddenly realized I liked what I was reading.
mm,
It was not just the names of people and which year they invented what. It was
mm,
about what they came up with. So it just intrigued me, and then I kind of developed a liking towards it. So I didn't excel at my entrance, but I got through. I would say that
mm,
much. So for
mm.
me, those 3 months were tough to start, but the moment I was into it, it just came in naturally. The liking towards it happened.
Okay.
So
And
yeah,
tell us about adjusting in the classroom during a master's.
it was very competitive because I didn't remember concepts as well as the BA students would have remembered, and then
Mm,
who joined MA, or the
yeah.
students who had studied psychology before in their 11th, 12th also.
Mm,
It was very competitive like that. I didn't know how to write references also. I still remember
yeah.
we had one person in class who would always excel at that was Pratisha. So I would
Pratisha, yeah.
always go beg to her, please write my references. I don't know what is this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I people were there, competition was there, but I uh, yeah, it was difficult. But I think by the
Mm,
second year, I got the hang of it, and definitely there was this pressure of proving myself to be worthy enough for the course, because everybody would be like, "What do you know? You've not even studied it before."
yeah, yeah.
So that pressure was there. So that pressure to make sure that I do not, mess it up was there.
Mm.
But again, there was so much of liking for the subject, it just happened. I
But,
got lucky.
but wasn't there an other way out for you there? Because you could always say that, you know what, I just tried this, it didn't work. It's okay, it's not my subject. Didn't you think of that option?
Uh, I I mean, everybody at my house did think of it, that she
Mm.
may actually get bored of this and it may not stick for too long.
Mm.
But it didn't happen for me. It really didn't. See,
Okay.
the thing with psychology is that you can't really find a reason to join. It has to come naturally. Like if you
Yeah.
have that those instincts are there in you, then you
Yeah.
just know that you're going to do well at it. So
Yeah.
you can't really train yourself to like a subject or a
Mm.
course. You have to have that feeling of liking it naturally. And if that comes, then you are done with it. Then any amount of competition doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And while I was thinking about our conversation today, I was thinking about what we're going to discuss. And I remembered something else that had happened in the first few months when we joined Masters. Do you recall anything in particular?
No, there are many things. Now that you're
Okay,
telling me
no.
this, but what did you
Okay, okay.
remember? Tell me.
Nothing drastic, don't worry. Uh,
Tell.
uh, just that part where there was a phase where you didn't want to do counseling and you wanted to switch over to industrial psychology and
Yeah,
HR. Yeah.
that was the
And
start.
yeah, and so I remember we were looking at permutations, combinations because there were people who were supposed to quit the ME program, go for something else, then the seats would open up and this and that, and we're having
Oh,
talks about it.
how I wished that someone just left that one
Yeah,
seat.
yeah, you're
I'll tell
saying.
you what happened there. Again, there was a bit of peer pressure because of this, as you said, change of career. Uh,
Mm,
Everybody did tell me that if you get an HR seat or
mm,
industrial psychology seat instead of general counseling or clinical, take that up because then you will be more in touch with business as well, and you will get to learn psychology also.
mm,
So I was like, ठीक है, now that I've invested 3 years of my BBA, let
mm,
me not waste it and just let me do industrial psychology.
mm.
And and I'm so glad that I did not get that seat because in the span of 3 months, 4 months of constant struggle of asking everyone, is it available? Is a seat available? Is the seat available? I realized that I had a bigger scope in general psychology, in just counseling. So I had options to deal with children, with adolescents, with young adults, old people, terminal illness, relationship matters, and whatnot. So there was an amazing scope of and range of clients that I could have dealt with in the future.
Okay, now, I remember another thing about that, that a seat did open up, and we had a conversation where I told you, you know what, Misha, you're finally getting what you wanted. And then you drop the bomb that, you know what, I don't want it. I'm going to stay in counseling psychology. And that's why you were
Yeah,
enjoying that bit.
yeah, enjoying, and it was much more fun, and I had an amazing batch in counseling. I'm still
Yeah.
friends with all of them. So
Mm,
the whole connect and the whole again, the subjects that we had were very good. There was couples counseling, then there was cognitive something, and I don't remember all. But then the subjects, the syllabus for counseling, one or two different subjects which we had apart from what the clinical students or the HR students were doing was very good.
mm,
So, and more than that. when you go through life, when you study counseling, just counseling, you end up realizing that it's so relatable.
Mm.
So then you just want to do more of it. So
Yeah. So then how, now tell us about your journey since your master's, because we have kept in touch and I've seen you grow as a counselor. I've seen how hesitant you were at the start and how unsure of yourself you were. But I think you're in a comfortable place right now mentally where you're able to hold your own in the counseling field. But the journey has been tough. The journey has not been easy
yeah,
by sure. By far.
it wasn't. It wasn't easy. But okay, but you're asking me professionally?
Yeah, I mean, professionally and personally as well, I'm sure the subject would have helped you understand aspects of your life as well.
Yeah. So the thing with as I said earlier, business and psychology, they both being completely different. The one thing that convinced me that it's okay for this change of career and this challenge is that um psychology over the study of the mind sort of overpowered the study of just business, is because whether there is a sales pitch, a marketing plan, a B plan, an entrepreneurial motive anywhere, you need to have understanding of what the customer or what your client needs. It's a
Mm,
psychology which needs to be applied everywhere.
mm,
Nobody can beat that. You have to understand what your client needs, right? So
yeah.
psychology in its own is so huge that you can't avoid it. And
Mm,
studying this gave me more power. So even after I finished my MA and I took a break again for a year and a half, I think, 2 years,
mm,
because of marriage and all those things and whatever it was. And uh, I was still understanding my life because I studied psychology. Of course, I had gained perspective of dealing with life a bit differently because I had studied it, and because I knew I wanted to pursue this. I would consciously make an effort to like be okay with not working for or being in the field for a year and a half or two after I finished MA. So that
uh,
break again taught me a lot of patience and calmness and not to judge whatever happened, and to still, and the moment I got an opportunity, all thanks to you,
ah,
to
no, no,
work
no.
to work and I I set in, and it helped me definitely.
Yeah. No, you said thanks to me, but I think I mean, honestly, I have, it's not just you that I have tried to open up the clinical field to. I mean, not that I was a doorway or something, but I just knew that you were interested in having your own clinical setup. And you are one of the few who have carried on. There have been others who have begun. Let me tell you that. There have others who have begun to take up clinical cases, but they have not been able to sustain themselves. But you have carried on, right? And then, so it's all thanks,
Thank
it's
you.
all attributed to your own hard work, Meisha. Yeah. So
Thank
you're
you.
enjoying it now.
Yes, I am. But it was a struggle though, because initially there was no much clinical exposure. Learning any kind of therapy or therapy skills was again difficult. But I had good mentors with me. I mean, Dr.
Mhm.
Agarwal was there, Natasha was there. You were also there. I remember my first session was a joint session with you. And
Was it? I don't
yeah,
remember. What was
yeah,
it
in
about?
Panjim. It was a joint session. You called
Yeah.
me in for just to sit with a client of yours,
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah,
psychic
yeah, I
client, yeah.
remember. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He had
And
anxiety issues.
yeah, so it was, again, I told you, I had a lot of help. I've been very lucky that way.
Mm.
But yeah, it kind of took a while to get the hang of actually sitting, because usually once you finish your MA, the first thing you look for a job, and the first
Mm.
job that you think of is a school counselor.
Yeah.
That's what most people do. Most students think of becoming a school counselor or working at an NGO.
Or
But
teachers, or teachers.
or teachers, yes,
Yeah.
teachers is very common.
Yeah.
And it again surprises me because anything that you wish to do with counseling, if you're not good at actually being a good counselor, you cannot be a good teacher either, according to
Hmm.
me.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because
There is,
basic counseling, basic
yeah.
understanding of counseling is empathy, it is being non-judgmental, it is being understanding concepts, it is listening actively and all those things, and you require a lot of patience. And
Hmm.
if you don't have that, and if you've not, I mean, if you've not gained that control over yourself, even teaching a concept to a bunch of students is going to not help much.
Yeah.
It'll
Hmm.
help you, it'll help you get the job if you can, if you force it to be like that, but then I
Yeah.
don't know how much is going to benefit the children. So
Hmm.
people have to take very wise decisions, I feel. Even for me, clinical work took time because I knew I wasn't prepared for certain cases. I wouldn't take up
Hmm.
any cases which I knew I didn't have my confidence in.
Hmm.
Started
Hmm.
with just general counseling, and then slowly with anxiety cases, then it slowly went out to OCD cases, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how it needs to be. Just you just can't
Yeah.
jump into something. So
Correct. No, and it's good that you brought this up because it used to frustrate me a lot as well when I see students come up to me and say, "Sir, I want to do my masters," and then I ask them, "What after masters?" I want to get into teaching. Why? Because I think I'll be a good teacher. Then my immediate question to them is, "Have you taught someone?" Because it isn't easy. It isn't easy to teach someone. But
exactly.
and then yeah, the more I discuss with them, right, about why they should look beyond teaching. I get the impression that it looks as if I am trying to discourage them from teaching, right? So then I have to stop talking because otherwise, then they stop coming back to me. Then they stop listening to me because they
Hmm.
think that he's a teacher and he's gotten, and now he's trying to discourage us from joining in. I don't know what his issues. I get those kinds of vibes. So it's good that you said it because they need to hear this from others as well. And partly also, I think that there is a lack of exposure when it comes to knowing what is out there. Because
Hmm.
when you are in a graduation and your masters, you don't get to interact with a lot of professionals who are out there, and you don't get to. So consequently, you don't get to think of what can I become, right? And which is partly one of the objectives of doing these video talks with all of y'all is because I want to show them that look, these are the journeys that have happened, and you could have a similar journey yourself. But mainly, I think it's to do with a lack of role models, which I'm hoping to turn around. So let's see how far that
That's
goes.
great. That's great. No, it's very important because what you do after learning MA psychology, again, like even to being a teacher is not a bad idea. If you feel that you
Hmm.
can teach a bunch of students, it's great. It's amazing.
Hmm.
But teaching psychology is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Teaching psychology and teaching English or math or science or any other subject for that matter is the, it's a different concept. Teaching
Hmm.
psychology is all about how to teach humans to treat other humans.
Yeah.
It's like a daily routine practice. And if you
Hmm.
do not, if you're not good at that, you have to be good at that. If you're not good at that, you're not going to be a good teacher. You'll be judged as a teacher. That this teacher can't cope with us, and this teacher is
Yeah.
teaching us psychology.
Psychology. Yeah. Yeah.
So, very important.
How's how's your current job situation going along? How many tough cases you've had, and how are you coping with them?
Tough cases, yes. Uh, the
You don't have
most,
to discuss the details of the
yeah,
cases,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You
yeah,
just
yeah. I got your question. But it's just that, yeah, there are a lot of cases. It's been, I think, around 4 years now. I'm doing
Mhm.
sessions, and I think past 2.5 years, I have increased my range of work. So, a lot of challenging cases. Most challenging are the OCD cases,
Mm,
in which I had to take uh, one step ahead than whatever I knew. So
Mm.
it's not, again, MA is not enough. You have to always
Yeah.
keep going. You have to increase your knowledge. You have to
Mm.
do. I had to again, now there is always competition. You always have this insecurity of whether you are being a good counselor or not,
Yeah.
compared to others. And when you have such a good team with you, you always are under that pressure to be good, to have a
Yeah.
good opinion and not a dumb opinion sometimes. So you have to work. I had to read a lot. I had to
Yeah.
join a few courses, understand what therapy works best for certain clients, and you have to keep
You did
learning.
that. You did that course online from the Aaron Beck Institute, no, on
Yes.
CBT, and you enjoyed it pretty much.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it, and because I knew I'm doing it from the person who started it, it
Mm.
just made me feel like any other course would not do justice to this. So I took the best one, but it's
Mm.
helping me till date. I've done two
Mm.
courses with them till now, and yes, it's been very beneficial.
Okay.
And
Uh, yeah, two things that you mentioned earlier is that you have to continuously evolve. You can't simply rest on
yeah,
what you have. Right? There's continuous hard work that goes in, and you need a good support system of your peers as well. You need people to look out for you because you can't survive by yourself there.
yeah, you can't. You need that. And this supervision of whatever work you're doing, whether you're doing it in a clinic or you're doing it at a school or an NGO or any other place, you need to
Mm.
make sure that after a while you do get yourself also checked in terms of what you're doing. Is it good or is it not good? Is it quality work or not? You have to get supervised. If you don't have
Mm.
any supervision, you have to make sure you manage it from somewhere.
Mm.
You have to
O-
make sure that you are up to date. Yeah.
Okay. Have you thought about uh, whether you want to specialize in any kind of with any kind of populations or any kind of illnesses? Have you given a thought to that, or are you just rolling with whatever comes your way?
Anxiety.
Mm.
All anxiety cases I would love to take up. Whether it is
Okay.
panic, GAD, or OCD, social phobia, I would love to deal with this
Mm.
because I love
Yeah.
CBT.
Okay.
So
Yeah. And CBT is
for the pure love of
interest.
CBT, I would always bet on in any anxiety case. I would love to do that because there's so much of practice involved in it, so much of experimenting, there's so much of new things that you can keep doing. So I love
Mm.
that. But I will not
Mm.
say no to any other cases because somebody once told me never say no for anything until unless you've tried it.
Yeah. Correct.
So, so I keep saying okay, okay for everything.
Yeah.
I say no very like सोच समझ के, but yeah.
Yeah. It's important to experience whatever is out there before you disregard it or before
Yeah.
you say close it out. Yeah. Yeah.
Now that you
Okay.
asked me this question, I want to say
Mm.
this, but
Mm.
I don't know if a current kind of a particular kind of patient that you are asking me, but I would definitely say particular population that I would least work with is children.
Mm. Least.
Least work with is children. I always
Yeah.
thought that I would be very good at child psychology and all that. And I
Uh,
started off my pitch at my first interview was with that. And then
uh,
Dr. Agarwal looked at me and he smiled and he was like, let's work first. And then you tell me after 6 months what you want to do more. So I
uh,
was like, no, no, I'll be very confident about it.
uh,
But again, it all changed because of the experience, because of the actual reality exposure.
uh,
The thing again with psychology is that you cannot predetermine what you want or what you will love.
mm.
It's only and only when you go through it, you'll understand it better and then you'll be able to choose.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a similar kind of an argument I hear from my students as well when they say, "Oh, so I love teaching, I love to work with children." And mentally, I'm thinking, don't assume anything until and unless you've tried it, because you
Yes.
don't know what lies ahead.
Mm.
Okay, so you wanted to be with children when you started off, but now you realized, let's
I
focus on
bought like
anxiety.
some 10, I actually invested in 10 new big books of child psychology. I never touched them. They're just lying there.
क्या तो क्या कर रहे हो डोनेट कर दो किसी को गिव देम टू समवन
I should actually, but it was my first attempt at work. So I thought I'll keep it as a souvenir, as
no
a
no
big remembrance that
yeah
okay, this was my mistake.
yeah exactly those 10 books are like
But
reminders you should keep them in different places throughout your house or in
yeah.
clinic.
No, I've hidden them. The people remind me very easily. That see, I've spent so much on these books and I'm not using them. They're hidden away. People love to pick on your mistakes, so it's
Yeah, but mistakes are good reminders of how things can go
yes.
wrong if you don't
That
think
is why
about
I
it.
did not donate it.
Forward thinking, yeah, very nice, Meischa. Okay, so Abhi, have you thought of any other super specialized courses? Do you have anything on your radar that you want to pursue now?
Uh, there is another course of the CBT only, which I would
Mm,
want to do. But it's related to depression,
mm,
wholly and solely committed to depression and not anxiety.
mm,
I want to do that only because, again, I said I have to increase my range of work. So even though I love anxiety cases, I have to pay more attention to others also. Depression
mm,
is very common. Everybody talks about it. Everybody feels that they know how to deal with it. So I want to know what is so easy about dealing with depression that people talk about it so easy. I want to know about that. So, and secondly, I also want to work with terminally ill clients, which I have never worked with. So if I get an opportunity, I would want to do that as well.
mm. What would your advice be to students who are right now in their TYs who are thinking of whether they should pursue a career in counseling? What are the things you would ask them to think about first before they choose to do this?
mm, I would say don't run for the pay package that you think you will get immediately after you pass out and you get some
Is
job.
there a pay package? No one told me about that. I don't. Is there in
Pay
counseling?
package in terms of HR people get.
Yeah.
HR people get.
But they don't get to
There
do
is
HR. I mean, they don't get to work in psychology. They
they
tend to
become
work in
HR.
HR.
Yeah,
HR, not
like
psychology.
like
Not
hotels and everything. But then the
yeah.
degree helps them, no, to be a part of HR.
Yeah, but then if your inclination is towards psychology, and then if you end up doing HR work, you won't like it 5 years later, 6 years later, and it's going to frustrate you.
That's the counseling. If you're doing industrial psychology, it makes sense, no?
No, not really, because I'll tell you what. I specialize in industrial psychology, right? And my inclination was not towards HR because I wanted to understand how psychology can be applied to the workplace to influence, say, cultural setups
Correct.
or communication issues, right? But what an HR does is basically high-end clerical work, maintaining pay records and leave records and so on. I did not
That's what I'm
imagine.
saying. That's what
Uh,
I'm saying. There is no real work as a counselor when you end up joining an HR or you work under an HR or you do HR work.
that's true. That's true.
What is fancy is you're either working at a big MNC or you're working at a good 3-star or 5-star hotel
Mm,
and like Marriott or Hyatt, and you get the job, but then you're not doing psychology work.
yeah,
So
that's true.
the pay may feel like you're doing very well, but you're not going
Mm-hmm.
to be doing justice to the subject that you studied, invested 2 years in, or maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
That one. Secondly, if you feel that you want to teach, then even if I feel people who want to teach also should have some exposure with clients, some exposure. Not, if not a clinical setup, at least uh, go to an NGO, sit with someone, talk, and then go back to teaching.
But you know what, Misha? Now the situation is so dire that even if you have all the credentials that you need to take up a teaching job, there might not be a job waiting for you because colleges are reluctant to hire first and foremost. And now what's happening with this pandemic is that it has forced everyone to go online, right?
Yeah.
So whatever objection was there from teachers earlier regarding teaching online, it's all gone for a toss now. Now teachers will be forced to teach online, which will cut down on the number of classes, which will cut down on the number of required teachers for any course. So I think the job opportunities for teachers will also plummet now. So that's another
Hmm.
point we have to consider. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I interrupted you. Your
No,
third
no,
point.
made sense. It's okay. Yeah.
Your third piece of advice.
Uh, what about things that you need to be careful of? Try
Mm,
not to have too much of a gap after your MA.
mm,
Uh, Try to either invest in a course, or try to get some kind of opportunity with a professional, mental health professional, to just to keep yourself going. But keep going.
yeah.
Also, if people are looking for getting what do you call that thing? To be registered
Mm,
psychologists. So I would suggest keep a tab on what are the requirements for that
yeah.
also, and then take a call on what you want to do. Because again, uh, doing a PhD and all that is all theory work, but
Mm,
in actual you need an MPhil, which requires a 2 years full term investment again after an MA also.
mm, yeah.
So again, be very careful of that. Apart from everything else, you have to work from your heart. If you feel like you're a good counselor, you will be good at everything else after MA. But you have to make sure that you are working with good intentions, and then learn the
Okay.
art of being a good uh, psychologist or a counselor. Like, good
Okay.
intentions cannot be taught, right? So
Yeah.
it's that's something that you need to have within, and then you take it forward,
Yeah. Hmm. Okay.
right?
All right. I
Have
think I
I
have.
answered any of your questions?
Yeah, you have. We
Okay.
wouldn't have been talking for more than half an hour if you hadn't. Is this something that you wanted me to ask you, but I haven't asked?
No, I think you asked. You scared me also a little in the middle, but I know. I think it was a good.
Yeah.
I think it will be helpful for students to go to listen to something like this, if they, especially in this pandemic time.
Mm,
Uh, Everybody is worrying about their careers and everything, so I think this would be a good. Uh, it would be a peaceful video to look at, or something like this
yeah.
from others also would help.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, yeah, hopefully this comes in handy for them. I've already put out, meaning I've already had a couple of other calls as well, so I'll put them out as well. So hopefully this will be a nice collection for them to listen to when they need out.
Thank you, Aresh. You've been very, very kind.
Thank you, Misha. That's my cue to wind up the interview. Yes. Thank you.
I'm very good at cues.
Well, I've been learning from you for the last so many years, right? I've gotten used to understanding cues from you now.
Right.
Thank you, Misha. Take care then.
Thanks,
We'll
Rajesh.
talk soon.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See you.